Well, I don't want the YouTube police to get mad at me, so we're going to do a bit of a retrospective slash New Year's resolution slash whatever at the end of this year, which was a much more different year than I was expecting when I did this a year ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to react to that video in realish time. I'm going to edit it and maybe I'll put a sepia tone over top of it to make it super fancy if I can figure out how to do that. Contractually obligated New Year's resolution time. We did one of these last year. I think that for me, the best way to approach this going forward is to look at what we talked about last year and then update on top of that. We'll go through each of the resolutions that I made last year, give a little bit of an update, potentially remove the resolution or change it or punt it into next year. We're probably not going to follow that same format. I'm going to talk about each of the resolutions, but given everything that happened in 2023, I'm not entirely sure that specific resolutions are where we're going to land. I think I'm going to be more thematic. We had finished Memories and Lessons in December of last year. I felt really confident that we were going to just bang through the remainder of them. It wasn't until November of 2022 that we finally got Dragon Age Inquisition done. Anthem still remains to be done, and then we do one final one on Morrison and bring us right up to date. So there are still 2 left to go. I hope it's obvious that I'm not going to do any Memories and Lessons or retrospective on BioWare work while I'm still working with BioWare on Dreadwolf. That is continuing into 2024. So we didn't do this in 2023. When will this happen? Will it happen in 2024? I want it to, but we'll see. Hopefully it's not going to take us that much time, but there are still 2, so it might take longer than I want it to. I will say that the part on Dreadwolf will be a bit interesting now, I suspect, than it would have been before, because now we're going to have a sort of double header on Morrison. There will be beginning part where I was EP, and then we'll skip ahead in time and we'll do a little wrap up of what has happened since I've come back. But that's going to have to wait until the game is out, and maybe we'll give it a little breathing room even beyond that point. I had a bunch of resolutions around high T and the high Cs, getting that going, and we did do some work on that. I think we need to be a bit more concrete than what I did last year. I did something which really I should have known better and fell into the trap of treating it as an atomic thing, and therefore it was small and therefore it was easily done. I think we need to shrink this down into some smaller steps. So for now, I'm just going to try to get the actual pitch deck for high T and the high Cs done and presented. I have an interesting format I'm thinking of, so hopefully we'll be able to do that pretty soon, which brings us to... So for high T and the high Cs, I don't know where we're going with this. I did no work on this at all. Honestly, it's been taking up most of my non-consulting time to keep the channel operating at this kind of half speed that it has anyway. High T on the high Cs is weirdly a fairly big game because it's conversations and it's got some sort of thing to do with ships, who knows. Something that's been niggling at me is the possibility of doing incredibly small, incredibly focused games, but at a sort of AAA level. The example that probably wouldn't be the easiest, but is very illustrative of what I'm talking about, would be musical chairs, Ultra HD musical chairs. So what's the feature that you're illustrating there is sitting in a chair, one of the hardest things in video game. To do this as an actual game that is released and to do it at AAA quality. So as if it was a feature in a AAA game, but the entire thing would just be getting the sitting to that quality level. Actually sitting in a chair, probably out of scope for a first game, but that's sort of the idea where my head is kind of picking at some of these hard features and thinking, oh, well, maybe there are entire games that could be made executing these features to a higher fidelity level. Things like crowds or sitting or just having a conversation with someone. Something that's just starting to percolate in my brain. So we'll see if that coalesces into anything over the next little while or not. If it doesn't, then we'll be back to high T on the high Cs. As I talked about here, I do think that building that pitch deck would be the first step. And maybe we'll do that even if we end up then pivoting from high T on the high Cs to this feature-driven development cycle. All very theoretical right now because I haven't done any dev in a while. I probably have to update my Unreal and kind of start over from scratch when we restart. A couple of goals here, very specific to developing both high T and the high Cs and just increasing my Unreal experience. I think I'm just going to take the pressure off of me on this front for now. Things keep happening that take priority over this. What I would like to do is to do some working sessions where I just stream myself doing something channel related to my members. That could be working on an animated low for Triage Games. That could be working on Unreal. That could be just building a design document or working on the pitch deck. That's more broad, and it gives me more of an incentive to start to get that work done. So if that's something you find interesting, it will be for members only. Maybe we will cut videos out of the content if something interesting happens. But if you're really interested in watching me silently work, then become a member, and those live streams will go up when I have the time or inclination to do a little bit of work related to the channel. We probably won't get into live streaming the filming of these videos. Other things around the edges of the channel, so around game development or research or graphic design, that sort of thing, is what I'm kind of thinking about right now. We'll give it a try in early 2024 and see if it is interesting to people, and we'll go from there. Was to get a month ahead on the videos front in order to remove that pressure or stress from myself in terms of trying to feel like I'm constantly on a treadmill. This is something I actually did a really good job on. At certain points of the year, I was almost 2 months ahead. It's really good that I did this because having 2 active contracts really made the time I had available for filming go away. We dropped the frequency of the videos from twice a week to once a week, which gave me more of a backlog. But that backlog is almost completely gone at this point. We're just going to buckle in and try to keep the channel actively updating for as long as we can. Once my contract with BioWare is done, we'll try to increase my filming schedule, build the backlog back up again, and then maybe we'll go back to 2 a week. We'll see how long it takes me to get back into the zone. One thing I've noticed is that because I'm not filming as often, it actually takes me longer to make a video because I kind of have to get comfortable. I don't have that same momentum that I had before. First things first, finish out my contract with BioWare, then rebuild that momentum. Then we'll see about getting back to twice a week. We've got a much better setup. We've got a much more stable background. So this is done. We're done with this. We don't need to further build any new furniture. I didn't end up building this by hand. It's bought off the internet, but it is more than adequate to my needs. I thought about this for a while, what I wanted to replace this resolution with. Something that I hadn't considered would happen is in around March of 2022, I basically stopped using the River Valley walking footage as my B-roll, my videos. And at the same time as that, I basically stopped going for walks. Start doing 2 things here. I've been living with this setup now for a year. I'm actually still pretty happy with it. I need to work on the lighting, and I've got a better camera that hopefully we will get set up pretty soon. That will help. But, you know, I like the desk setup. It's good. You can see that actually the shot is pretty much the same as it was a year ago. So that's good. The walking basically didn't happen. I went for my first River Valley walk in mid-November. It had been a year and a half at that point since I'd done it before. Didn't film it, but we'll see if we can try to get back in the habit of that, because otherwise I'm going to turn into a potato, and none of us want that to happen. And then finally, I had a resolution about escaping the matrix. What I found happening was that I was just spending a ton of time engrossed in my analytics and fretting over it and chewing on it, and usually not in a way that was particularly useful. It wasn't making me make better videos most of the time. It was just a thing that I kept refreshing to watch number go up. And I was doing a pretty good job of this basically into September of this year. September and October, up until the Dreadwolf Alpha video, were actually really bad for the channel. Due to circumstances beyond the channel's control, not beyond my control, but beyond the channel's control, I basically did this because I couldn't care about the channel's analytics as much because I had other things that were taking priority over this. November of this year will probably end up hopefully being the worst month in the channel's history going forward for all of time. And I didn't really find myself getting pulled into that as much as I did in 2022 when we were having a bad couple of months. So I think that we've largely broken this habit. Once this is taking up more of my time, will it become a thing I need to be worried about again? Probably. So we need to keep an eye on it. Hooray for me for succeeding at something without even really having a choice. So overall, I'm happy with how 2023 went. Obviously, didn't go to plan, signed 2 big contracts that took up most of my time, which changed how much I was working on the channel. Didn't really do any dev, but I'm happy with how things turned out. 2024 will be different again, which is why I'm looking backwards as opposed to worrying too much about my goals going into 2024. One big thematic thing is to just start doing a little bit more channel related stuff for the members, for the channel itself, and see how that goes. Does that mean picking Unreal back up? Maybe. Does that mean just a few working sessions for members? We'll see. That's the resolution for this year, is just do a little bit more channel stuff, get comfortable doing a bit more for the YouTube channel, and see where that leads us to. Will I try to do more painting? Sure. Will it happen? Who knows? Am I going to try to get the walks going again? Yes, I'm going to try. Will it happen? We'll see. So, not really any resolutions this year. Special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's a link to that down in the description. I do want to thank you all for sticking with me for another year. I know it's been a weird year to be following me on YouTube because I have been somewhat distracted, but thank you for sticking out. There's more to come. We're not done trying to make the video game industry better yet, so stay tuned. We have merch now. I'm wearing High Tea on the High Seas shirt. I was wearing the High Tea on the High Seas hoodie last year. There will be a link to that in the video itself, as well as a shelf below the video for other merchandise as well. What are some of your resolutions? Or do you look at resolutions as a problematic thing? Some people try to set themes. I think that's actually a good idea. I guess what I'm saying is my theme is explore for 2024. Exploring the space of this channel a bit more than I've been doing in the past. Give me your resolutions or your themes for 2024 down in the comments. I will see you again soon. Thank you.